I am so excited to welcome you to another episode of the Terri Cole Show, where I have a very special guest on the show today. We're going to be talking about health and wellness and Ayurveda, which is an ancient wellness tradition. She teaches us so much. Her name is Avanti Singh. She's an MD, but really she is an expert in Ayurveda, which I am so personally interested in. I asked her a million questions. So I hope that you enjoy my interview with Avanti as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. Wow, I'm so excited to welcome you to the show, Avanti. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you, Terry.
So fun. We did your show. Now we're doing
Yeah,
my show. We just can't stop hanging out together.
I know. And I have a feeling it's going to continue. There's so much to talk about.
There sure is. All
Mhm.
right, let's talk about health and wellness. First, I wanted to ask you what really drove you into the path that you're on now with Ayurveda?
Oh, well, honestly, I had a health crisis. I was in my medical training. I grew up always thinking and knowing that I wanted to be a doctor. And it was Western medicine that I was fixated on and decided that's what I was going to do. And when I got into my training, I started having a lot of health issues. And Western medicine wasn't providing all the answers for me. I'd keep looking, I'd keep asking my peers, my colleagues, get blood tests, get everything done, and nobody could give me any answers except you have a really busy life, you're in medical school, you just got married, you have a child, at the time just one child, you just have a lot going on, so of course you're not feeling well. And that was it. And then and so I went back to really what I grew up with, because I started thinking about the fact that for the first 20 years of my life, I had no medical issues, no medical problems. And so what was the difference? Here I am in medical school learning how to take care of patients, how to help people get healthy, and I'm getting sicker by the minute, literally. And so I went back to what I did as a kid. I started thinking about the fact that, we did all these things that were just part of our lifestyle. And I started to make the connections that it was because of the medicine that I grew up with, which was Ayurveda. I'm South Asian, I'm first generation, an immigrant. My parents are immigrants. And Ayurveda was just the way that we lived our lives. So it wasn't sort of this like flashing sign of, okay, now you're going to eat this way, now you're going to do a routine like this. It was, this is just the way you do things. It was part of my life. So that's how I
Right.
went back.
All right. So for people who are unfamiliar, will you just
Mhm.
give us sort of Ayurveda 101?
Yeah. So, Ayurveda is really based on one basic principle, which is when you live in harmony with nature, the daily rhythms of nature, the seasonal rhythms of nature, you will have optimal health. That's literally what it comes down. All of those thousands of words in the Vedic texts, all the wisdom that has been passed down for 5,000 years
Mhm.
amounts to that main principle. And we know this in Western science now, right? Circadian medicine has been proven, and it controls everything in us, right? And so really it comes down to that. The second principle is, some of the other things that you'll need to know about Ayurveda is that it's based on this idea that everything in the universe is made of five elements. Uh, they are air, space, fire, water, and earth. And that means that everything that's living, plants, animals, human beings, even, and they're more that it's a bioenergy, really. And
Mhm.
it's present in everything, even times of the day, in the seasons, in the foods we eat, in the things that we do, the activities. And so this idea is that you're born with a certain um, genetic sort of blueprint of these
Mhm.
five elements, which is called your dosha. And based on that, that is sort of your state of optimal balance. Now, it could be any proportion. The point is that you're only born with that. And then after that, as soon as you're born, you're going to be out of balance because we're human beings, right? The idea in Ayurveda is if you can start to stay in that place of balance and come back to like getting closer and closer to where your optimal balance is, you'll have optimal health. So again, those five elements in nature, When you stay in balance within yourself and with nature, you have optimal health.
What's so interesting about your dosha, I learned years ago at the Chopra Center that I was like
Hmm.
a pitta, right? I mean, that was my predominant
Right?
constitution, let's say.
Yeah.
And I always felt like I was an out of balance pitta because, you know, the when I was younger, there was more
Hmm.
aggression,
Hmm.
right? And more ego driven stuff.
Hmm.
And as I became, evolved more, I was able to sort of keep myself in more balance and
Hmm.
less being totally out of balance because I stopped being such a workaholic and all the things that I was doing. So, how can people listening, let's say they're interested in their dosha,
Hmm.
how can people figure it out besides going to a practitioner like you or reading
Hmm.
your book or there's
Hmm.
there's many ways that you can help us, but
Hmm.
how does someone who doesn't know that much about it, how can you figure out what your dosha is?
So it's actually a great question that I always sort of answer with. I actually don't think that dosha quizzes, when you're first starting with Ayurveda, are important, because what it does is it confuses people and it just becomes another list of things that people think that they need to follow. And my whole point in Ayurveda is that this wisdom, this healing wisdom, is within you. You
Mhm.
actually know these things already. And so I'm trying to get people back into their selves, right? To connect with the healing wisdom that they have. So the answer to that question is actually, it's not important when you're starting to know what your dosha is. It's more important to understand what is the imbalance that's showing up for you.
Mhm.
Because once you start to bring that imbalance a little closer towards balance, you'll actually start to feel better. And then you can move on to understanding how to stay in balance when your dosha becomes more important, right?
Right.
So, really trying to focus on, what is the challenge that's showing up for you? It can be emotional, spiritual, mental, physical. Anything that doesn't feel at ease, when you feel dis-ease, when you feel, out of sorts within yourself, that's showing up for a reason. It's telling you that you're out of balance with your dosha, with what you were born with. So how do you bring yourself back to that, right? And really, where it comes down to is a basic principle in Ayurveda, which is like increases like and opposites reduce. So we think about
Mm.
Ayurveda as a qualitative science. It's not quantitative. So it's a very different perspective, and it's really a mind shift for most of us in Western culture, right? We're so used to thinking about lab values and numbers and, diagnostics. And this is a qualitative science. So it's all about 10 pairs of opposites: hot and cold, fast and slow, moving and not moving, right? Those are the kinds of qualities. So when we can think about what are the qualities of the symptom, the challenge that's showing up for us, and then do the opposite to bring it back into balance, that's all we have to do. It's actually that simple.
What's so interesting is that having a, let's say from my perspective, I am very heat seeking.
Hmm.
Very heat seeking. I always want to be drinking hot things. I sit on a biomat 15 hours a day. Like I want heat. And I remember talking to someone saying, you might want to cool that down a little bit. Like, because I was complaining about something and they were like, you are craving heat, perhaps because you need to cool something down. Does that make sense in Ayurveda? Or am I just
You know what? I missed your question. You have to repeat it because it was there was a delay. I'm
oh,
sorry.
got it. No worries. So I was saying I'm heat seeking, right?
Right.
And wanting heat. So it's, oh, I want something hot to drink. I want to sit on my biomat 15. I do sit on my biomat 15 hours a day. I heat up these little corn bags when I meditate. Like I'm always looking
Hmm.
for heat. And someone had said to me about a lot of times what you're seeking might mean you need the opposite. You might want to cool that down. Does that make sense in reference to Ayurvedic
Yep.
stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you are more of a fire personality, you have that. Sometimes you're going to be drawn to what's not good for you. And actually what will throw you more out of balance, right? And again, it just depends on what time of the year it is, what's going on for you. So this can change. But sometimes when you're doing something like that and really craving too many hot things, whether it's hot foods, spicy foods, hot compresses like you're talking about, it might be time to think about, well, is this showing up in how I'm showing up in the world? Am I
Mm.
really irritable? Am I really angry? Am I short-tempered? Because if that's true, those are all symptoms that have that hot, fiery quality. You need to do the opposite.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Wow. That was very helpful. Okay. So what are your recommendations? Let's say we want like the best structure for our
Mhm,
day for sort of optimal health. What
mhm.
would you say to that?
So there's a couple of things. I think the first place to start is thinking about sleep. I'm a big proponent of your day starts the night before.
Mm.
I know sleep can be a challenge for many people. And so it really comes down to what can you do to get your sleep more regular? How can you regulate that? How can you give yourself enough time to wind down at night? What can you do the night before to rest and relax and also prepare for the next day? And that's the first thing. So, the best times, as far as I'm concerned, for getting to sleep is try and get to bed before 10 o'clock. So that means you might need to get into bed at 9 o'clock if you have trouble
Yeah.
getting to sleep. The next thing would be is, regulating the time that you wake up. Again, how you end your day and how you begin your day is really important. But more even important than that is when you wake up, try and get some natural sunlight into your eyes. Get outside, not through a window, but get outside. I think that that is actually the most important thing because it resets your circadian rhythm on a daily basis. It gets you breathing in some new life force energy, some fresh prana. You connect with nature and you connect with this idea that there's something much larger than you, and it sets the tone for the day. That would be the second thing. And then the third thing is really as far as, having some kind of structure to your day, especially in this time of a pandemic where everyone's life has been sort of turned upside down, right? With routines. Trying to have some regularity is really important because it helps to regulate your nervous system, right? And you, as a mental health professional, you know how important that is to try and find ways to manage the emotions and the stressors that are coming in all the time. And I
Right.
think that regularity from an Ayurvedic standpoint is a really important piece of that. So look at your schedule, try and create some regularity with sleep, wake, and then just your activities during the day.
So to begin to go to bed earlier, asking for a friend, um, I find it very difficult.
Yeah.
If Vic, my husband, if Vic will get on board with me, where I'm like, can we try together? And of course, we don't have to go to bed together. I always tell him when I'm going up to read, and he always says he's always working. I mean, he works all the time, so he'll come in from the studio and say, or he'll text me and say, I'm coming in soon. So that could
Mhm.
mean I'll be sound asleep by the time he comes in, or it could mean I will still be awake and hear him. But I think that the wind down, how far before
Mhm.
trying to get into bed do you think we should be off technology?
Ideally, 90 minutes
Yeah.
if you can, because the blue lights from anything that is digital, that glows, that has a screen, it's very disruptive to our circadian rhythm. And so TV, there's so many things that we do as relaxation in the evenings that involves blue light, unfortunately. And so trying to get away from that as much as possible is really helpful. At least 45 minutes if you can. That
Yeah.
would be really sort of the minimum. But if you can do 90 minutes, I think it really helps to calm your mind because what you're doing is you're activating your mind again, right?
Right.
With all the stuff on TV, all the scrolling, everything that's coming in on your iPhone or your computer. It just activates your brain, and then you get into that space of thinking, thinking, thinking. This happens to me too. I start thinking about, oh, I didn't email that person. I didn't do this. Or let me look at Instagram a little longer.
Yep.
My mind is too active.
Yeah, what I think that's helpful. What I think is helpful for me is if I have something on my mind and I forgot to do something, I actually, because I don't have any TV in the room and I don't have the phone in the room,
Hmm.
but I will go into the other room where the phone is and I will put in my notes the thing because I know if I don't, I'm going to continue to ruminate, like, don't forget that thing.
Right.
But I'm like, wow, it's 20 minutes and I'm still freaking thinking about that thing. How about I just get up, you lazy bum, go write it down? And I find that helpful. And
Hmm.
with the, if my mind is starting to think about things, I find it helpful to count backwards from like 500. And a lot of times that I don't even make it to one. Like it's almost like I've created a neural pathway though, because I've been using this technique to help myself sleep for
Hmm.
many years. And I feel like it has actually helped. But the getting into bed early is much more of a challenge because my husband is naturally a night owl. So
Hmm.
before I was with him, I would always be asleep by 11 for sure. I'd be in bed
Hmm.
and asleep by 11, wake up at 7, get plenty of sleep. Then, 25 years ago, this guy comes in and, he'd be like, being like, want to eat dinner? It's like 10 p.m. I'm like, hello, normal people eat at like 6. What are we doing? Like, so we've kind of found our way together. But I know that what you're saying is so true, especially with the psychological aspect
Hmm.
to getting more sleep, scheduling our day. Because think about the pandemic, and I know you've seen this with clients too.
Hmm.
The things that would normally create a certain amount of security or structure or ease for us,
Hmm.
that's our routine, right?
Right.
What do we do with kids? We create a routine so that children know what comes next. It makes them feel safe. It makes
Hmm.
them feel kind of masterful, like, oh, now this is the time we take a nap, or this is the time we have a snack, or whatever the thing is. And it's been so much on moms in particular who are home and who are
Right.
working, and then who suddenly became teachers and had to do all of these things that we forget that our own schedule is important too. And in closing down the day, that's another thing that if you have workaholic tendencies,
Hmm.
I find it's very important that I make a delineation between like my life and my work life, because if not,
Hmm.
then my whole friggin' life
Yep.
is my work life.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think that your technique of, writing something down so you're not ruminating on it. I actually have a little notebook next to my bed so that I can just note it down and then just put it away. So I'll be like, okay, I know that I thought of it now. It's here. I won't forget it by tomorrow and I can look at it later. So that's
Right.
that's another thing that helps me. Yeah, I think, with the pandemic, the idea of having some kind of a routine because we're home all the time, there's no break in even saying you're going to work, you're coming back from work, you're going to pick up your kids, you're coming back because everyone's just at home. And so those little breaks that create almost these touchstones, these touch points throughout the day that kind of break it up and give you some kind of a rhythm, those are gone too. And so I do think it's so important, like you're saying, to be able to have those kind of touch points, whatever they are, create some kind of touch point for you throughout the day so you can break up the day and take a pause and think about yourself for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Even that is a good place to start.
Agreed. I also think that one thing that I noticed missing in my life since the pandemic is, I used to go to the gym to work out. Now, it took a lot of time
Mhm.
from my day, and I've absolutely adapted to jumping on my trampoline at home, and that is my workout, and I absolutely love it. But there was something social about me.
Mhm.
These are not people I saw outside of the gym. I've lived here 15 years. I never socialized with these folks, but I know about their life. Like I care about them. I'm
Mhm.
interested. Oh, so this one turned 5 or this one's graduating. That level of socialization away from my little crackpot farm, there was something about that it almost like fed a different part of me, right? And being
Mhm.
home all the time, it's the part of me that it's me and Vic, and thank God we have a good relationship. But you know, I missed that actually this weekend, and it just started opening up. I actually went into the city.
Mhm.
I wanted to get my hair done. My God, my friggin' color, my hair colorist was like, "Well, your hair is khaki." So because I was getting it done upstate, no offense, just saying, true story. She's like, "It's going to take a minute to fix," but I got to see two of my really closest friends, and because things are opening up, and we're vaxxed, and we wore masks and we social distanced, but
Yep.
we actually went out to Tavern on the Green and had lunch.
Mhm.
And we were all like, this is
Wow.
so weird. Like, it was weird to do something normal, although it was very welcome,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and I mean, so that interaction, that's like a touch point of something to look forward to. But if you have no structure, what are you looking forward to? There's it's kind of like, what you talk about. There's no boundaries on
Right.
anything, right?
Exactly.
Even it's like almost like a not a physical, but sort of a metaphysical boundary of time. Like this is when I do this. This is when I do this. This is when I do this. I feel like that has really disappeared for so many people, and it's causing so much more anxiety because our nervous system has nowhere to land,
Right.
right?
Yes, exactly. And so it's sort of there's hypervigilance about what's next.
Mhm.
And it's like, I don't know.
Yes,
And you're like, wait, if you don't know, who does? And so
exactly.
creating exactly what you're saying, though, about
Mhm,
creating some kind of a schedule for ourselves,
mhm,
this will relax the nervous system some, because at least that's the new touchstone. Oh, okay. So no, this is the time I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. I wanted to actually ask you about food and about eating,
mhm.
because I know this is a part of
Sure. Mhm,
the optimal health. So just tell us your thoughts, ideas, recommendations for sort
mhm,
of the optimal way of consuming food.
mhm. So, in Ayurveda, we look at food as medicine. And what's interesting is that the what is important. It's what I call the principle of Ayurvedic eating. What is important, but so is why, when, where, how much. Those are important factors in food. And we are so concentrated on just the what, we forget about these other factors that are so important. So, really considering, why are you eating? Are you eating for nourishment? Are you just eating because it's, you know, a way to push down emotions or other internal triggers of some kind, right?
Mhm.
The where, let's not eat while we're walking, talking, driving, whatever it is. Let's sit down at a table and actually eat, because then we increase the nourishing factor of that food because it's medicine. The how much and when. The when is super important in Ayurveda because we talk about really following the path of the sun through the sky. When the sun is at the highest point in the sky, that's when our digestive fire, our internal fire metabolism, is at its highest. So again, we are very, very aligned and very connected to nature. Again, this comes up a lot in Ayurveda.
Mhm.
So if you eat your largest and most difficult to digest meal in the middle of the day between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., your digestive fire is highest and strongest. It will be able to break down that food, keep what it needs, and get rid of the rest most effectively and efficiently.
Mhm.
So move your largest meal towards the middle of the day. That one tip has been transformative to so many people, including myself. But to so many people, I can't even tell you. People will come to me all the time and say, I did that one thing and it has changed my life. Just by shifting and making sure I'm eating, things that are difficult to digest, like if I'm eating raw foods, if I'm eating any kind of protein, vegetarian or non-vegetarian, those are difficult to digest. If you eat them late at night, your digestive fire has started to set just the way the sun sets in the sky. So that would be a really important concept in Ayurveda. So that's the when and how much. Largest meal in the middle of the day. Make your breakfast and lunch lighter and easier to digest. And then the what is really, it comes down to one really important principle when you're starting out: eat seasonally. That comes from Ayurveda. Mother Nature is much more intelligent than we are, right? Just because we can fly in food from any place in the world and eat
Mhm.
strawberries in the middle of summer, in the middle of winter, doesn't mean we
Right.
should. So eat seasonally. Those
I
are my
love
best tips for eating.
I love it, and I love that the summer is coming because we have this big organic 2 big organic gardens, and so we're really eating seasonally up here on Crackpot Farm, and I get so sad when it's over because then, it's harder when it gets colder to get fresh stuff. I
Mhm,
wanna ask you a question I'm asking all of our guests, and also for people who are interested in, your book,
mhm,
tell us where they can get it. It's The Health Catalyst. Is that the name
mhm.
of the book? I love it.
Yes.
Where can they get it?
The best place to go is you can get it on Amazon, but if you go to my website, which is avantikumarsingh.com, you can click on the book and you'll get links to buy the book there.
Right on. Okay, cool. So I'm going to ask you a boundary question because I'm
Sure.
asking everyone a boundary question because I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
Personally, what has been your most challenging boundary struggle and how did you or are you overcoming it?
It's a great question. It actually is something I've reflected a lot on. I think for me, it's been emotional boundaries with
Mm,
the people in my life, whether it's my patients and students or my family members, my husband, my children, my parents. Creating an emotional boundary of not trying to solve everything for them and feeling their pain and feeling that discomfort and saying, I just want the discomfort inside of me to stop. So let me try and fix all this stuff for you. And what's interesting for me is that the way that I sort of started to overcome that was not by saying to myself, oh, you need to put these boundaries up. It was actually going to a spiritual place and realizing the spiritual boundaries for me. And this idea of, I'm South Asian and I believe in karma, I believe in reincarnation. And the idea that we all come in this lifetime with certain lessons we're supposed to learn, and so if I interfere with those emotional feelings that somebody else is having, is even as painful as it might be to me, I'm interfering with their karma. I'm interfering with their journey, with the lessons that they have to learn. And so if I want to help them evolve, I actually need to step back and be supportive and allow and put that boundary, that emotionally boundary up for me. So that was really how I was able to deal with that. It was really hard for me to do.
Oh, Avanti, it is so hard, but that is so beautifully put and so incredibly insightful because it is so accurate. And what you're really saying from a maternal point of view is that I will endure this pain because I know this my job is to help you let yourself figure it out. Like I have faith
Mhm,
in the other person. Like I'll be uncomfortable and always flipping it around to people because of course I'm a recovering codependent and exactly the same,
mhm.
where my first thing, no matter who comes to me with anything now, I always first say, well, let's start with what do you think you should do? Like creating space for them to even formulate. And if they go, I don't know, I want to know what you think. I'm like, nope, we're going to start with it's your situation. Nobody knows it better than you. So,
Yeah,
what do you think you should do, even if you're confused? If you did know, what would it be? If you were leaning which way, which way would you be leaning? What do you think you should say? And when I find that if I can be a better listener in those circumstances and sort of hold that space with the holding that person like in this high esteem, right, for their ability to figure it out, and maybe not in that moment, but I got so clear in my 30s how exactly what you said, I had that realization myself, like this is me wanting my discomfort to end,
mhm,
but it actually, I don't know what this person should do. But I love that you brought in the karma aspect of like, am I disrupting or getting in the way of what this person's journey is in this lifetime because I don't want to be uncomfortable? Wow, I don't want to do that, so that was so
right.
beautiful. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for sharing, and thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so much fun. You guys, you know where to go. Every way that you're going to find Avanti is going to be in the show notes. Check out her book, The Health Catalyst, super groovy. And I know we're going to do this again, Avanti. I'm super psyched, my new friend. So we'll
I
say to
know.
be continued.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime.